Hey guys, it's Vatisna here. Welcome to my channel. I'm really excited about today's video. So for today's video, I am showing you 3 different ways you could use Sola Wood Flowers. And what's awesome about this is I actually used the Sola Wood Dye to dye some of these. I have some that were already dyed by Sola. And then I also used some acrylic paint. And I just wanted to show you the different ways you could dye these and how you could use them. And of course, it being fall, I'm doing a whole fall theme. Haven't checked out Sola Wood Flowers, make sure you check them out. They are phenomenal. The prices are great and they come in all sorts of different types of flowers, different sizes, some small ones, some big ones, some medium ones. They range, I believe, to about 3 inches in size. Very, very affordable, really nice. They have the white ones, which you can dye yourself or just use them like naturally as they are. Like, they're really pretty. And then they have ones that you can get already dyed, which is what I got. So I chose this color because I'm really liking the blues for the fall. So I thought this would look great for a fall arrangement. And then you can also get their dyes and then you can also, they also have some greenery and other decorative pieces. So make sure you check them out, but their flowers are phenomenal to work with. There's all sorts of different ways you can use them, and they're so easy to work with because when you think of wood flowers, if you've never worked with them, you think, oh, I don't know, are they going to crack or whatever? They're super, super great to work with. So let's get going. So Sola did ask me to be an affiliate partner, and along with the flowers, they also sent these dyes. And I will be using the ruby red and the butterscotch. And I will also be using some of my acrylic paints. So for the dyes from Sola, I will be using, actually for all of them, I'm going to be using a mixture of water and the paint. Now, the more paint you put, the richer the color will be, obviously. So just keep that in mind depending on how vibrant you want the color. So I used about a tablespoon of the paint to a quarter of a cup of water, and that seemed to be the perfect amount. Now I was dipping the flowers. I've seen people do all sorts of things, like even use glycerin with their paint, all sorts of different things. I really like the way this worked out, and I did not soften the flowers or anything like that beforehand. It just worked really, really well. And all you do is you just put your paint into the water and then you mix it through. So here I'm using the skinless flowers. So these are the ones that look kind of like an ivory white. And I am just dipping them into the paint mixture. And this helps to cover them completely, even in the little nooks and little crevices in the flower. You could do the tips of them, which I did for some, and then I kind of changed the color so you don't have to dip them completely. You kind of do whatever look you're going for. So this is just what I did. So I don't know about you guys, but I already started decorating for fall. It's really funny. I saw this meme on Facebook that had said, oh, everyone else is like, oh no, I can't believe summer's over. And then you're sitting there with your pumpkins and all that stuff. That's kind of me. Although I really don't want summer to be over. I love summer and I love being home with the kiddos and all of that stuff while they're off from school. But I love decorating for fall and I love Halloween and I love all of that stuff. So that kind of makes it a little bit better. I know that after kind of Octoberish, the weather here is going to stink and it's going to be cold, but then at least I have kind of Christmas to keep me going. So the fall and Christmas season are, a pretty happy season for me. So I've started decorating for fall. Let me know in the comments below when you start decorating for fall, if you do seasonal decor. I really never used to do it until I had the kiddos. I did Christmas, but I didn't do fall and spring and all that. I kind of just had like Christmas and then the whole year. So let me know if you do seasonal decor and when you guys start your fall decor. I did really like how the colors looked with the Sola dyes. I found that the butterscotch was a really, really nice, duller, kind of more natural orange looking color, whereas the orange that I used was a little bit too artificial. So kind of play with your colors too. Maybe mix them up if you're not able to get the Sola dyes, or if you are able to get, the colors are beautiful. The red is fantastic. And then, get a few that you would use like staples, and then you can kind of do accents with your acrylic paints. But they did both worked really well just using the water and paint mixture. I didn't do anything differently. And they dried, I left them overnight to dry, and they dried really nicely, and I was able to work with them the next day. So I know this part is kind of long, but I wanted to leave this in here because I wanted you to see that I'm using like a combination of colors. So here I'm mixing the green and the red, and that's why I'm using a brush and I'm dipping. I'm doing a little bit of both. And honestly, if you get these flowers, they are really forgiving and they will turn out beautiful. Just kind of have fun with them, mix the colors, and see what you like best. I love the way the red ones turned out, like the nice deep rich red colors were beautiful with the green. These will be awesome for Christmas too, so if you don't want to get them for fall, but for Christmas you could get them. They're just so versatile. So I'm just kind of showing you all the different things that you could do with them. And if you didn't want to dye them yourself, you can for sure get the dyed ones already. So I will have the affiliate link for Sola Wood Flowers in my description below. So make sure you click that link so you can do your shopping there. And they have some great sales right now. So it would be a great time for you guys to buy. So now that you've seen me dye the flowers, I'm going to get right into the DIYs. So I'm going to be starting the first DIY with these two bamboo cutting boards from the Dollar Tree. I was so excited when I saw these earlier this year. I bought probably too many of them, but I was so excited because we didn't have them for the longest time here. So they're awesome to work with, and I'm just going to be joining these two together. So to join these, I did a little bit of a combination. I used hot glue and wood glue, and then I also put a painter stick on the back here, and I cut it into, well, I broke it into 3 sections, and then I glued it down here as well with a combination of wood glue and hot glue. And then you can kind of see I put some staples in there as well. The staples were just kind of to hold the glue together a little bit better, but you can't see any of that from this side. So I always wind up getting a lot of hot glue everywhere, so I wind up cleaning up the glue gunk from the front, and then I'm going to go ahead and stain this. And if you guys have been to my channel before, which I know a lot of you have, you know that I love to stain wood with my Rustoleum decorative glaze in Java. I'm not showing the bottle this time. If you watched my last Christmas video that I made, I was trying to show you guys which one I was using, and I wound up spilling it all over my table, so I'm not showing you. I will have the name of the glaze in my description below, and you can get it at Home Depot. To apply the glaze, I always use, well, usually not always, like 90% of the time, I use just like a rag from that I've cut up. It could be from a t-shirt, it could be from pajamas, whichever. And then I try to follow kind of the grain of the wood a little bit, or at least go in one direction. It just depends on which piece I'm doing. And try your best to go in one direction, not going like side to side and up and down. And it just kind of has a cleaner look. And this is a glaze that if you want it to be a little bit darker, you might want to wait for it to dry off and then do another layer of it, but it's pretty dark on its own, and it does work on painted stuff and bare wood. The painted stuff, obviously you don't have the wood grain, but you have that color. So once I had the color that I wanted, and I only did one coat of the glaze, I am going ahead and I'm attaching my jute rope to the piece, and what I'm doing is I'm hot gluing a piece of the rope to make it look like it's a vase. So it kind of winds up looking more kind of like a milk can, and I wind up using 2 pieces of jute rope so that way it has a little bit of a thicker edge. And then I wind up cutting the top parts off just so that it's not so tall. What I was thinking is I was going to flip them in or do something like that, and then I just decided to just cut them. And then I add my flowers. So I want this to look like it's a bouquet of flowers in a vase. So I'm just kind of playing around with which flowers I want, and once I get the combination of flowers, then I go ahead and I add back those pieces of jute rope that I cut off, and I put them kind of a little bit lower on the vase. So as you can see, I'm playing around with which flowers I want to put on and how. So I'm using some of the ones that I dyed, and I'm also using some of the ones that are just skinless on their own because like I said, I love that white. It's a very pretty off ivory white. So I make that nice combination, and then I need to add stems. Now you can stem these flowers if you want using floral wire, and if you ever, I sometimes, not always, but I sometimes save the little stems from flower picks that I've used from the Dollar Tree. So if you do that, this would be something you could use to just stem your flowers. But I'm not using that. I'm just using the skewers for barbecue, the wooden skewers, and I'm just pretending like these flowers are on them. I'm not actually stemming them because I want everything to be kind of as flat as it can be to the board. And I just wind up cutting them a little bit so that some of them are a little bit longer and the other ones are a bit shorter, just so it looks like they are coming from different flowers, if that makes sense, just so that the stems look like they're different heights. And I do glue the top one, as you can see, to the flower at the top just so that I can kind of get my base going. And after I get the first one down, then I wind up just gluing the stems for the other ones, and then I glue the flowers on top of that. And so then I had picked up some of this orange rope at the Dollar Tree, and I wind up just making a little bow, just kind of like when you tie your shoelaces, that kind of bow. And I hot glue it to here, and it just so it looks like the flowers are kind of held together by something. And that's all there is to this one for the decor part. Then I want to be able to hang this. So at the top, I'm going to drill 2 holes and use that same orange rope as my little hanging piece. And I just wind up hot gluing the little pieces at the back so that they don't come out. And so here's the finished piece. I love it. So I could not resist making a fall DIY using these gorgeous flowers and not making a wreath. So you got it, I'm making a wreath. So I'm using one of the skin pieces that Sola had dyed blue as like a focal point, and then I'm adding some of the flowers that I had dyed around. So you just kind of, as you can see, there's a whole bunch of flowers around. So I was playing around with it to see which ones I wanted to include, which ones I didn't want to include. And it's always trial and error, and it's what your eye kind of wants to see. So if you want to use these guys, then you can see that I used a larger orange flower, a smaller orange flower, and then a blue flower, and then another kind of medium-sized flower. As well, I'll add one of the skin pieces that hasn't been dyed in there as well. And it's just like I said, you fill in kind of where you need to fill in and play around with it until you get the look that you're going for. I also wind up adding 2 fern leaves in here. So I had fern that I had purchased this summer, and I just cut 2 leaves off and just add them in there just to add a little bit of greenery in there. So a really quick DIY, but it's just gorgeous and it'll go great on my mirror. And I just wanted to show you that you could also hang it this way, like kind of like a sideways wreath. Either way, whatever works for you. And the last little Sola DIY is another super easy one. I have this tin container that I saved from a box of chocolates, and I'm going to be painting it out using the heirloom white from Rustoleum. And I've got this handy little nozzle that I like to attach to here. I actually saw this on the Schwoven's Nest. Sandra had recommended this, so I love using this. And I'm going to be spray painting this in that color. And then once it dries, I do want to antique it, so I'm using that same Rustoleum decorative glaze to just give it a little bit of an antique aged finish. So I'm just lightly applying it to the tin container. And I am putting it on the inside and outside of the container. So while that dries and sets, I go ahead for the next part of this DIY. And the next part, I'm using these 2 jars from Peaches. They were Peaches from Costco. And I saved these jars because I love the little square kind of shape to them. And I'm just putting some brown espresso acrylic paint and some pumpkin acrylic paint. I'm mixing it together. And I'm going to be using a pouring solution as well. I got this from the Dollar Tree. I thought I'd give it a try. And what it does do, it makes the paint a little bit thinner, so that way I can paint the inside of the jar a little bit easier. I did have one of you guys advised me to try and pour the paint in there rather than painting the outside, and you were absolutely right. It looks a lot better. I had tried it before, but I didn't use like a pouring solution, so I think that really helped it look a lot better. You could probably thin it out with some water too and it would be the same, but I had this on hand, so I thought I'd try it. And what I'm doing is I'm just slowly kind of rolling the jar from one side to the other. The only thing that I wouldn't do next time is put both paints in there and then mix them that way, just because you should just mix it. I just didn't want to waste paint, but you should just mix it in a different container and then pour it in. But it turned out looking fine. And then just near the end, I used a brush to kind of fix up the top part. But I do wind up putting a ribbon around it, around the top, so it's not a big deal. But that's the only part that didn't do so well. But like I said, you can pour it all the way out and it would be fine. And then I'm using a combination, so I got smarter the second time around. I'm using a combination of green, forest green, and pine green, and I'm putting that solution in there. And so I'm mixing everything in a bowl and then I'm pouring it into the jar, and like I said, this makes it a little bit better. So then I wanted to put something into these jars so I could just put the Sola Wood flowers on top and not have to stem them. So I had these leftover pool noodle parts and they just fit perfectly into the jar, so I decided to use those. You could use fluorofoam and put it in there and then just glue them on top of that, but this worked just as well. So I used that. And then around the top of the jar, I'm just using this burlap ribbon, and I am just gluing it, and well, it's self-adhesive, so I wound up just putting it on there like that, and then I wind up having to put a little bit of hot glue to make it stick better because the rim of the jar is not smooth, so it doesn't want to stick to it. So then I go ahead and I add the Sola flowers into here, and all I do is I kind of plan out what I want them to look like first before I glue them down. And I also got this little pick from Sola Flowers as well, and I'm using this one in this arrangement so that it kind of gives it a little bit of height. Once I think I have the arrangement the way I want it and the flowers that I want, I go ahead and I hot glue it. So this is really important that you kind of play around with it before you hot glue things down and see what you want it to look like, because you will wreck the flowers if you try to hot glue them and then take them off. So just kind of plan it out, make sure you like the what it looks like, and then put everything in with your hot glue gun. So I wound up adding some of a hula hoop skirt into this container. So I bought a hula hoop skirt that's like a raffia hula hoop skirt from the Dollar Tree, and I'm using it in here as stuffing inside the planter, I'm going to call it. And then I also got one of the Dollar Tree fall pillows that I'm going to put in here. They're cute little tiny pillows, and I think they just look gorgeous and perfect in this tiny little arrangement. So here it is completed. I love the way it turned out. It's so cute. And so here it is displayed on my mantle. Thank you for watching, and let me know which one is your favorite, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Thank you again for watching. You don't know how much I appreciate it. And thank you to Sola for providing me with these flowers so that I could share my creativity with you guys. Make sure you check out the affiliate link that I'll have in my description below, and check out those flowers and all the other fun things that they have on their website. And as I said before, they do have sales all the time, so check them out. So thanks again, and make sure you leave me a note below letting me know which one you like the best. And again, thanks for dropping by, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Have a great day.